Your book subtitle is A Warning to Save Democracy from the Next Trump. There are people who think that Trump is singular, that Trump is Trump. We survive 2024, Trump dies, and then we are okay. And it seems like you have a different take.
It's a much more significant phenomenon than that. And I'll confess to Andrew to having been naive about this myself is I went into the administration originally viewing Trump as an aberration, as a phenomenon of someone of deficient moral character who, once he was gone from office, would essentially be replaced again by more rational Republicans. And as you well know, you and I met while I was in the middle of that fight after the Trump administration, trying to get the Republican Party to swing the pendulum back to the center. And I will say we failed miserably, as those of us, in fact, after the administration ended, me and a friend, Evan McMullen, who ran for Senate as an independent in Utah, after the Trump administration ended, we pulled together about 200
And president as an independent
and a
in
presidential
2016.
candidate, indeed. That's right. Evan and I pulled together about 200 Republicans, cabinet secretaries and congressmen and senators to have a conversation about trying to go defeat MAGA candidates and, again, swing the pendulum back to the center. And I'll say after 2 years of working in that space, we lost. And we lost miserably because the MAGA wing of the party really took over, not just at the federal level, but all the way down to the state level and the state parties. But at the same time, if you look at the data, we saw the base itself really transform. And this is why I worry about the next Trump and someone trying to be a copycat, is because they will have to cater to the GOP base. And it's a GOP base that's become more reactionary than it used to be. What am I talking about? I'll drill into three specific numbers. A majority of Republicans believe the election was stolen from Donald Trump. They believe the big lie. A majority of Republicans today believe in the core tenets of QAnon, the QAnon conspiracy theory that a cabal of deep state operatives secretly run the government. And a slight majority of Republicans believe in the great replacement theory that secretly Democrats are trying to infiltrate people of color into the United States to replace whites. Now, that was not the case 10 years ago. A majority of the Republican Party didn't hold those sort of conspiracy theory views, but now that they do, anyone who wants to win that nomination has to cater to that base. And so I worry about, even if it's not Donald Trump, that a successor will carry forward a lot of those policies. And we're already seeing it. I'll give you two examples, Andrew, of policies that even Trump himself decided not to pursue that now his acolytes are pursuing. One would be this idea of busing and dumping migrants in democratic cities. So when I was in the administration, we got a phone call from the president, and he wanted us to, in his words, send murderers, rapists, and criminals that had been arrested at the border and bus them into democratic cities to cause chaos and disorder, and then to send other migrants in as political pawns to overflow social services. Well, I went back to the lawyers. Obviously, doing that was deemed illegal, right? It was illegal to try to use these people as pawns and to ship them around the country. Well, since his presidency, and he was talked out of it, he ultimately stood down. Since his presidency, we've seen people like Ron DeSantis in Florida and Greg Abbott in Texas actually pick up that policy and pursue it. They've gone and they've stuck migrants on airplanes, flown them into different cities as political pawns, and continued that. A second policy Trump was talked out of was, as I mentioned earlier, gutting the FBI. There was this notion that the FBI should be cleansed of deep state operatives and they should take a wrecking ball to the institution. Trump was dissuaded from doing that because he was told if he did that, he would be impeached. Yes, he fired Jim Comey, but he stopped there. And now, what was originally, I think all of us thought that was a fringe complaint that he wanted to get rid of people at the FBI, and it was only because they were investigating him. Now it's a leading talking point of the Republican Party and people who are in Republican leadership in the House and the candidates on the field is that they want to go detonate the FBI and replace the institution. So again, two examples of how the MAGA movement has sort of grown beyond Donald Trump's control and taken over the party. And I think the conditions are right for a savvier successor to take over that movement and potentially cause greater damage in office.
So you have a very deep network among Republicans. How many are in that Fantasyland camp where they're like, look, let's just like hunker down, and then after this hurricane passes, then everything will quote unquote come back to normal. And how many, if you had to take a guess, if they get asked about things like did Trump win or lose the election, they say something like, oh, we can't know, we should look into things, even though they know that he lost. Like, is there a proportion where they're just speaking to the base even though they know different?
Andrew, I would say it's probably a majority of elected Republicans right now. I meet with these people all the time. I talk to them all the time. Some of them are still my friends, and privately they will still say the same things they were saying 5 years ago. Donald Trump's an aberration. This will blow over. We just need to wait it out. And they've been proven wrong time and time again. And the best data point for that is right now, the man they told us would go away is the leading candidate for the GOP nomination at this moment. And I think that's the big concern.
Hey YouTube, glad you're enjoying the podcast. If you really like it, hit subscribe, and then YouTube will notify you every time we have a bang up new guest. Thank you.